Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
It's a snapshot of homelessness in San Diego, and the picture isn't a good one. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The latest point-in-time count shows over 10,000 people had no shelter on a single night, and we're taking a closer look at those numbers across the county. KPBS reporter Melissa May begins our coverage with the city of San Diego.
The San Diego County point-in-time count is done each year on a day in January. The goal is to collect data on the needs of unsheltered individuals and to get a rough estimate of the homeless population in the county.
The announcement this morning is not good news.
That's San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria talking about this year's count. It showed that the number of homeless residents in the county spiked by 22% from a year ago. A total of 10,264 people were counted on January 26th of this year, up from 8,427 in 2022. The count breaks down the number of homeless people who are sheltered and those who are unsheltered. In the city of San Diego, the January count found 3,285 unsheltered residents, compared to 2,494 in 2022, a 32% jump. Gloria says one reason why San Diego's number is high is because other places essentially export their homeless people to the city.
The city of San Diego stands alone when it comes to taking on this issue seriously, and we need other communities to step up and help in this regard, to actually house their own individuals who are becoming unsheltered, rather than passing them on to the city of San Diego and to our taxpayers to provide for.
Hanan Scrapper is the regional director for Path San Diego, a statewide homeless service organization whose mission is to end homelessness for individuals, families, and communities.
We're not that surprised by the numbers. We are seeing it.
Scrapper says there are clear reasons why homeless numbers have risen in our region.
It's our housing inventory as well as housing affordability. We have people who are paying 80 to 90% of their income towards their rent, which means you can't really sustain on that income.
Scrapper says the homelessness crisis won't be solved until communities work together.
I don't think homelessness falls on one person or one entity. I think that it really takes all of us as a community to come together and address homelessness.
Certain groups in the county really stood out for Scrapper. The increase in unsheltered people 55 and older and those who are newly homeless.
It's reporting that 46% are newly homeless. That means that people who have not been experiencing homelessness or have not touched the system in 2 years are now back on the streets.
Scrapper says the first step to solving the homeless situation is through prevention services. Melissa May, KPBS News.
And the point-in-time homeless count in San Diego's North County region showed lower numbers in some cities and spikes in others. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne breaks it down.
We joined Greg Angel in Escondido on an early January morning when the point-in-time count was taking place. He told us then he anticipated the data would show an increase in homelessness in the North County. And he wasn't wrong. Homelessness in Escondido jumped 67% from 2022, according to the point-in-time count data. Last year, 182 unsheltered people were counted. This year, 304.
Unfortunately, the data reaffirms what we have been seeing on the ground every day, that homelessness is increasing, and in particular, unsheltered homelessness has increased in our North County communities.
Angel is the CEO of Interfaith Community Services, the only provider of low-barrier shelters for all genders in North County. But some North County cities saw a drop in their numbers. Poway had a 91% drop, counting 23 unsheltered people in 2022 and only 2 people this year. In San Marcos, the number dropped from 12 unsheltered people last year to 2 this year. The data show coastal North County cities, Del Mar, Encinitas, Solana Beach also saw drops in their percentages. But Angel says the data is at best a rough estimate and often inaccurate. Many homeless people go unaccounted, and drops in numbers could mean there were less boots on the ground the day of the count.
The count is carried out largely by volunteers who go out at one time early in the morning. And if you don't have enough volunteers to cover a certain area, then that area is going to have a reduction in numbers.
Nonetheless, Angel says the data does help organizations and municipalities get a sense of the problem.
The point-in-time count is something that's done annually, and it raises the awareness of how many people are struggling on our streets once a year. But for most of those individuals, they're experiencing that struggle every night, every day. And it is solvable for every individual.
But the solutions require funding for wraparound services and more shelters and transitional housing, which are also part of the point-in-time count data. In total, the data shows 10,264 homeless people were counted in San Diego County. About half were in some form of shelter, and half were unsheltered. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
The MTS Board of Directors met today to discuss the ongoing bus drivers' strike. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says a resolution could still be weeks away.
Bus drivers who work for the private contractor Transdev have been on strike for more than 3 weeks now. On Thursday, they got their first chance to plead their case directly to MTS. The workers are asking for more clean and secure bathrooms, and they want to work fewer split shifts when the workday is spread out over 12 or more hours with a long unpaid break in the middle. Veronica Ortiz has worked for Transdev for 18 years and has watched her pay stagnate while the cost of living keeps going up.
We have co-workers that are homeless. They live in their cars right in front of our property because they can't afford it. So that's where we're standing at this time. Now, the Transdev knows all this that we're going through, and they just don't care.
Ortiz and many of her colleagues want MTS to cancel its contract with Transdev and bring all its bus operations in-house. But the MTS board decided it's not ready to do that. After a discussion behind closed doors, it decided to offer Transdev an extra $1 million to help meet the bus drivers' demands.
We have seen a high cost of living in San Diego and a job market that has seen unprecedented wage increases. This has made attracting and retaining bus operators extremely difficult. But we need to find a resolution from both sides of the negotiating table. Our riders depend on it.
The MTS board has to meet again next week to make its offer to Transdev official. And Transdev only gets the money if it can end the strike by June 23rd. That could mean another 2 weeks or more of transit riders being stranded. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Governor Gavin Newsom is proposing a change to the U.S. Constitution to combat gun violence. The proposal would create a 28th Amendment that would leave the Second Amendment intact, but add 4 gun safety principles. And those are raising the federal minimum age to purchase guns from 18 to 21, mandating universal background checks, instituting a waiting period for all gun purchases, and barring civilian purchase of assault weapons. For a new amendment to pass, a constitutional convention would need to convene, and that would require 2/3 of all states to call for it. Pride Month celebrations are in full swing, but the festivities come as state and federal lawmakers consider legislation targeting gay and transgender rights. Chris Wynn shows how the LGBTQ+ community is continuing its fight for equality.
You speak a language of love like you know what it means. With Pride Month underway across America, members and allies of the LGBTQ+ community are coming together to celebrate. Oh, you're simply the best. Yet for some, a feeling of anxiety permeates the air.
I'm scared for us. I'm scared that we're going to lose our rights.
Judith Clavins and her wife are attending this Pride kickoff event at the Phillips Collection Art Museum in Washington as she worries about what mounting political tension around LGBTQ issues means for the future.
cut it out with the prejudice, cut it out with the changing laws. We're just people.
The American Civil Liberties Union is tracking more than 400 anti-LGBTQ bills, like those restricting gender-affirming care, drag performances, and pronoun usage.
Florida's also taken a strong stand against the imposition of gender ideology in our schools.
While not all of these bills are expected to become law, advocates are fearful. In a historic move Tuesday, the Human Rights Campaign declared a national state of emergency for LGBTQ+ Americans amid the onslaught of such legislation and threats to the community.
1 in 5 of all hate crimes are motivated by anti-LGBTQ+ bias.
HRC President Kelly Robinson says there's much more work to be done.
This is not a moment just to put up rainbow flags and come out and march. This is a moment to make clear where all of us stand, because the majority of Americans do not support these extremist attacks on our lives.
Tens of thousands are expected to attend the annual Pride Parade and Festival in the nation's capital this weekend, including protesters from far-right groups. For event organizers, safety is a top concern.
It feels like we're going back in time. We need to be willing to create these spaces for all people to feel a value, and that is what Pride is about.
Spaces like the Phillips, where all are welcome and celebrated.
We are not letting any of the hatred or the bigotry stop us from doing what we're doing and being who we are.
Finding comfort in culture and community. In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
If you are a person of color in San Diego, you might qualify for up to $40,000 to help purchase a home. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson looked into the new pilot program from the San Diego Housing Commission.
The program offers grants and deferred loans to help with down payment. It's aimed at moderate-income households of color who have not owned a home in the last 3 years. Sujata Raman is the Housing Commission's Vice President of Single Family Finance. She estimates it will assist 80 to 100 home buyers.
Every little bit helps. So this is the first of its kind in San Diego, where we have a race-conscious program through a government agency.
Non-Asian households of color in San Diego have lower than average home ownership rates. Racist practices in housing, like redlining and racial covenants, helped create this gap, which hasn't budged in the last decade. Ryan Klumpner is the vice chair of the Housing Commission's board. He says this program is one step toward closing that gap.
It will help families of color achieve the dream of homeownership that historically has been denied and kept out of reach for many of them. Homeownership brings with it the opportunity to establish generational wealth that has positive impacts on families for years to come.
The funds are first come, first serve, and Raman says they've already received many inquiries. Visit our website for more on this story. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
Millions of people across the country remain at risk of inhaling potentially harmful air as wildfire smoke from Canada keeps rolling in. Karen Kafa has the latest on where the biggest air dangers are now and where they're heading next.
I can feel it in my lungs, and when I'm walking around, I can it's pretty intense.
The nation's capital now in the thick of the hazardous haze.
I felt like I couldn't really breathe, catch my breath as I usually would be able to.
The Canadian wildfire smoke that's been choking New York this week is slowly pushing across the Northeast. Places like D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia suffering air quality ranging from unhealthy to very unhealthy.
The fine particles can penetrate deeply into fragile lung tissue, causing symptoms including cough, shortness of breath, and wheezing.
New York slightly improving Thursday, downgraded to unhealthy from hazardous on Wednesday. Various airports in the region are experiencing ground stops or delays due to low visibility. The FAA listing the changing conditions for passengers at fly.faa.gov. The South not immune. Cities like Raleigh, North Carolina and Louisville, Kentucky experiencing varying alerts such as moderate or unhealthy for sensitive groups.
Just kind of chill out, take a break, sit on the couch, watch some TV, listen to music, do a podcast, write a book.
Forecasters expect the smoke to roll over the Northeast, New England, and Midwest into the weekend, but say a new storm system from the west next week should bring substantial relief. In Washington, Karen Kafa, KPBS News.
Well, it might not seem like it now, but El Nino has officially arrived. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration officials expect El Nino to increase global temperatures and push this year or next to be the warmest yet on record. They also forecast El Nino's influence to be weak during the summer, but stronger starting in the fall. And that could also mean wetter than average conditions in Southern California.
All right, let's start off with our weather headlines, what we can expect as we wrap up the week and head into the weekend. We've been dealing with the persistent marine layer that's going to hold on here for the next couple of days. And then heads up as we head into the weekend, we could be tracking some gusty wind and even some showers and thunderstorms. Meanwhile, warming sets in as we head into next week. When we look at our temperatures as we head into tonight, we drop down to about 60 at Oceanside. San Diego, you drop to 62. Chula Vista, low 60s. Ramona down to about 57. Meanwhile, Borrego Springs drops to 64. And Mount Laguna temperatures into the lower 50s through our overnight time period. When we look at the main pattern here across the southwest, lots going on here. Still some of those thunderstorms into Nevada. We can see a few of those storms sticking around as we head into Friday. Meanwhile, the hot conditions move back in to Arizona, into New Mexico, and we still have a bit of that cooling thanks to that onshore flow and the marine layer sticking around. So temperatures only into the lower 70s for Oceanside. We'll go 69 for San Diego and Chula Vista about 79. Borrego Springs, you get up to 96, and Mount Laguna into the lower 60s. Not much of a change on Saturday, right? Things look pretty similar here with still some thunderstorms popping up throughout Nevada. Meanwhile, we can still remain cool along the coast as we head into the next couple of days. So speaking of the coast, here's what the 5-day outlook looks like as we have those low clouds and maybe some mist around throughout the weekend. But then as we head into next week, things should turn a little bit nicer. Looking at your 5-day outlook, inland, we'll have those lower temperatures, and look at that weather on Sunday. A little bit of mist in the morning, and we stay cloudy and cool to start the week, but then more sunshine and higher temperatures by Tuesday. Into the mountains, we take a dip with our temperatures on Sunday. Highs only into the upper 40s, but then as we head into the work week, back into the 60s. And we'll leave you with the desert forecast here. It's going to be much cooler as we head into Sunday, but then back to the 90s by Tuesday. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
A San Diego author is sharing his passion for writing fantasy and fairy tales with children across Southern California, and he started a book series for young readers that features characters who are daring and diverse in every way. KPBS education reporter MG Perez tells us the story of the BIPOC hero.
John Wells III is a man on a mission, wearing a backpack and loaded with boxes of his books. On this day, he is traveling the halls of Harvest Hill STEAM Academy in Riverside County, a school of 1,300 students in TK through 8th grade. First stop is a 3rd grade classroom, where Wells starts his storytelling with an unexpected personal confession.
I hated reading. I hated it.
Not to worry, that changed for Wells after he attended his first book fair in elementary school and found fantasy, the genre that inspired him most.
I did tell all the students in the 3rd grade that I had powers, superpowers.
He never lost those superpowers in his imagination, eventually motivating him to start writing as a young adult in college. There's something else about this San Diego author he wants you to know. He is part of the BIPOC community. BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color. He desperately wanted to see himself represented in the pages of the books he read.
I'd always see those characters as the best friend, the comic relief, even the villain sometimes, but never as the hero. I'm telling you, Caleb, there's something weird about that guy, Tristan said.
Wells began writing the Caleb Andrews Chronicles as the COVID pandemic proceeded in 2020. In the first book, The Last Angel Warrior, we meet the hero, Caleb, a 16-year-old adopted biracial teenager struggling with his identity. There are 2 more books now that Wells reads to children who can see themselves in the story.
It's so important for us to continue to stand out, stand up, and show the world that, hey, we're here, we matter, our stories matter, our representation matters.
The message is being received by students like 9-year-old Creed Abrams.
Books like this inspire me to, let's say, do different things and think about it a little bit more.
I like to read anime books, fantasy books, kind of romance books a little bit.
9-year-old Jada Brooks is another third grader who sees herself in the pages of The Angel Warrior.
And I like that part in the book where they find this stranger in a dark alley. It kind of adds up and gives the book a little something something.
John Wells keeps reading and writing.
The stranger looked at me with terror in his eyes.
He plans another 4 books in the Caleb Chronicles series, and he's adding more diversity in characters, along with another letter from the alphabet.
Q stands for queer. So queer, black, or indigenous people of color.
Harvest Hill STEAM Academy is home to students of several ethnic and economic backgrounds. They are also survivors of the COVID shutdowns and learning loss. Principal Phil Suttner agrees that escape through fantasy books helps in healing.
A lot of our kids suffered greatly during that time, not just from the seclusion and, being out of school, but a lot of them endured trauma. They lost loved ones and they had a lot of things happen to them that shouldn't happen to kids.
Before I heard the sound of footsteps, as if someone were walking behind me, everyone go this.
Wells is happy to help in the healing through his series of books that will end in a meaningful way.
I won't call it happy and I won't call it sad, but I will say that the ending that is planned is the ending that the story requires.
That is the last word for now.
That's the end of the chapter.
MG Perez, KPBS News.
A great story. Well, so many dogs need forever homes, but sometimes good dogs in shelters, they get overlooked. Well, not on Gabriel Feitosa's watch. He volunteers his time and his talent at San Diego Humane Society's El Cajon campus once a month, and that is where he gives dogs like Gram a show-stopping makeover.
We are giving Gram some leopard spots. She is 11 years old, so I want to make sure she looks young and fresh and get the most attention that she can get.
Okay, now that is quite a look. Gabriel says the dyes that his staff uses are non-toxic and safe for dogs. His creative grooming can cost anywhere between $500 to $1,200, but the shelter gets his services for free of charge. And they also do standard grooming, by the way. Well, Under Crank Productions is celebrating 10 years of preserving and revitalizing silent films. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando spoke with the company's founder, who's working to keep this art form alive.
Silent films were never meant to be watched in silence.
I think that the only thing worse than watching a silent film with a bad score is watching one with no score whatsoever.
Ben Modell's career path was set when he was forced to watch silent movies in dead silence at college. It was such a painful experience that he offered to accompany the films on piano.
Between my desire to help the movies not die and actually live again in front of fellow film students, and the fact that people were watching the movie and not really me, I think got me past any nervousness that I had. And there was a great deal of satisfaction that was helping these movies be entertaining.
And he continues to do that till this day.
So the music is there to help the audience get into the mood of each particular scene, clue them into an emotional state that may be happening, but it's a component of what it is. And, I'm watching the screen. That's like my sheet music.
Modell produces and distributes rare and overlooked silent films on DVD and Blu-ray through his boutique home entertainment label.
What I'm doing with the Under Crank Productions releases is trying to fill out the landscape, to bring the films of the stars who people went and saw while they were waiting for the next Greta Garbo film or the next whatever.
Paths to Paradise is an upcoming release that will feature one of Modell's scores.
I watch the film ahead of time, and even though it's a film I know pretty well, I'll make some story notes where there's either a surprise or a sudden shift in mood. That way I'm prepared so that I don't want to be late, because then it calls attention to the score.
During the pandemic, Modell provided an oasis of joy with his silent comedy watch party.
And the response was overwhelming, not because, oh, this was such a wonderful show, but the entire planet was so incredibly stressed out. And the opportunity to laugh while locked in your home for an hour, hour and a half was something that people really needed.
He continues that program, which allows people to appreciate silent films brought to life through music.
It's not winging it per se, but it's kind of like how a jazz musician, when they improvise, they're drawing on a musical vocabulary they've developed and are still also being present in the moment so that other new things can happen.
Most people are familiar with a silent film accompanied by a piano, but Modell has also played a theater organ for live performances and uses software to replicate that sound for Undercrank Productions.
It allows me to have that movie palace sound without leaving my living room.
You can enjoy Modell's delightful work on YouTube or take advantage of the 10th anniversary sale on Undercrank Productions' website this month. I guarantee these films will brighten your day. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition is following breaking news. Former President Donald Trump says he was indicted on federal charges in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. And we appreciate you joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.